What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Fanatic Islanders, your home for sports and sports entertainment. We have another segment of the SandBar Sitdown. Don't be alarmed. You do not see my face, but I am here in person with everyone else. Kadeem is not here, but I am here in person with everyone else.
I'm Kadeem.
So, like I said, we have another SandBar. We have the lovely Dr. Pinder, Your Neighborhood Physio. She's going to give us some insight. We're going to talk to her for a bit. She's going to share what she does. She's going to share what she does. And, it'll be a good segment. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elviann Pinder. I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I own Your Neighborhood Physio, which is a mobile physical therapy service in Nassau, Bahamas. Pretty much overall basketball fan. I cook, I watch shows, I lay down. I'm pretty much a homebody if I'm not at work. Or at the gym. So that's me in a nutshell. Oh, and I play PlayStation, just out there as well.
You can't just stop right that. You gotta actually go in, tell us what you play.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, that's actually untrue because I only play 2K. It's my only game. It's my only game. It's okay. It's okay. It's my only game. And I play that almost every other day now. I fall off from where I used to be. I could say that. It used to be bad.
All right, unfamiliar face. Introduce yourself.
That's a
The
familiar
new
face.
Kadeem.
You been there before,
I've
man?
been here before, but
This is first time in the soundbar, so
Oh yeah.
Fair enough.
Fair.
enough.
yeah, he's there before.
Yeah.
I wasn't it.
No, you wasn't. My name is Prince Blyden. Recent ACL cousin. Avid gym goer, interested in public health and what's not. Friend of the show, big supporter. Recently recovering from ACL injury, so I have quite a few questions for Dr. Pinder.
Yeah.
What's this, right? And it was before flag football practice, doing my warm-ups, right? Running, planted, went to make the turn. My knee said
Not even
meniscus and ACL,
Both.
one shot.
Oh yeah, they usually come together. Yeah,
So yeah, learning how to walk. It's fun.
I understand.
That's problem.
Yeah, it is what
Very.
it is. I should have lost some weight, but life.
No.
You want to start? You want to open up with the questions, or you want me to go with my
Right.
questions?
No man, you got.
We
Man,
don't.
they
The
know who I
man, the
am.
man is the legend. He doesn't
They
have
know
to
I
introduce
am.
himself.
The man, the myth, the legend himself.
This is Macario Blyden. That's it.
He doesn't have. You don't have to introduce it himself.
I go.
Full stop.
You can start it off, man. You can start. You got some
Right.
good questions.
So, what actually inspired you to become a physiotherapist?
Well, like I said, sports. So, in high school, I went to Aquinas, by the way, shout out. You don't really get
What's the name, Zach?
Aquinas shout out all the time. So
What's here?
let me just, it's 08. So one day I was at BAISS and one of the track guys, he asked me to kind of rub his calf with like some Tiger Balm or something like that. And I was like, I was always interested in the sciences, biochem, but I know I didn't want to be a doctor. Like I didn't want to spend all this time at school and then not having a life. I wanted my weekends and stuff, but I didn't know how they mesh. So I thought I would be a dentist. Didn't really figure that out. I played basketball all through high school. I played some night league. I played when I went to university. And I was just always fascinated about how someone could get injured and then come back. Or like I would be the one to be like, oh, watching a play and somebody got injured and be like, okay, I wonder why that happened and look it up. And so I got interested in physical therapy. I saw, at least from the sports aspect of it. And then I decided to look deeper. And so I went and I did like volunteer session at PMH. That's when I found out it was like a completely different thing outside of sports.
Yeah.
So they're in the intensive care unit, they're on the wards, they're pretty much everywhere. Baby unit, kids wards, things like that. So I noticed that it's so much different aspects of it. I could have never get bored. And I, going through school, I had a lot of desk jobs where I'd sit down, okay, it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you had lunch. And then it's like, okay, wow, 5 o'clock is taking so long to get here. But when I was doing that rotation, I saw that, okay, time goes faster. You go on to another interesting case or you meet someone interesting and every day is different. So I went to school and I studied it and it turns out I love it. I'm never bored at all. Like I started off at the hospital and then I went into private practice where I could have seen a lot of different stuff like ACLs and stuff like that. And then now I'm doing my own thing, mobile. So I deal with a lot of people who had strokes, spinal cord injuries, elderly people, and it's pretty fun. I like it. I'm never really bored. And if I get tired of one aspect of it, I could just jump into something else. So it's pretty much how I got into it.
Nice.
That's brilliant, man. Well, segueing from that, like, what's the study process? What was the study process like for like anyone who would be interested in becoming a physical therapist? Like, what would they have to do school-wise?
So I'd say if you're in high school right now, definitely focus on your sciences. So biochem, physics if you want to play around with it, math, of course. And then when you going into school, I went to the University of the West Indies in Jamaica, and they have a program where you could do a year of the sciences, and then you could jump into either medicine or, well, physical therapy is a branch of medicine. So once you pass all your sciences for that 1 year, you could jump into any program in medicine you would want to. So after that, you could do 3 years to get your bachelor's in the University of the West Indies where I went. And after I went to the University of the West Indies, I decided to get my doctorate, which is a postgraduate degree that I was able to do online during the pandemic. So that's one way. If you go the States route, you're looking at about 4 to 5 years because they skip the bachelor's because they're trying to maybe phase it out and let everybody maybe go to a master's level, or they want everybody to be at the doctorate level in the future. So that would be a route to take.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So is it like any specialty you do, or just full spectrum?
It's
Like-
full spectrum.
Okay.
You do have the option to specialize. So you could specialize in orthopedic cases or specialize in pelvic floor. A lot of people don't know, especially like ladies who have babies afterwards.
Yeah.
You got to train all of that again. And you have so much neuro when I talk about strokes. So the brain, getting all that back after all of that and rebuilding yourself. Kids, that's an underrated specialty. So pediatrics. We don't have a lot of that in the Bahamas right now. But like I say, that's a specialty that you would have to go and study again. So you're looking at another maybe 2 years. And then to pass the boards, mostly in the States, for any specialty.
Okay.
So sidebar, I think, well, flag football season is coming up. So if you do have it, I suggest come into the field because we could use someone of your talents there. So you will probably get a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of like
Flag football is booming.
Get the advantage, bro. Just
There
have a
are-
team doctor, bro.
there
One
are-
time.
Time.
Trust me. Fix some of these fingers. Some of
Yeah.
my fingers
Yeah,
can't.
yeah.
There are a
Finger
lot-
breaking in flag football
there are
for
a
sure.
lot of- yeah, there are a lot of nagging injuries.
Yeah.
But what aspect of your work would you say is probably the hardest?
You mean
Yeah, something, I guess, hard as in terms of difficulty, and I guess your least favorite. I know everything is probably your favorite, but what is probably your least favorite?
the
aspect?
hardest one is neuro, so that would be a stroke
Mm-hmm.
victims. But that's the most rewarding.
Okay.
So it's a double-edged kind of sword, maybe. Not really, but I get the most satisfaction when I see someone who would have lost any movement on whatever side of their body to regain that, start to walk again, start to do things around the house for themselves. Like, but you have the beginning and the end, but that middle is rough because you have to build the psyche again. You have to build, you could do this, this is possible. But the person has to kind of dig into themselves. And for me, as the tool in getting them to get there, is like, I have to know where what I could do. I could only push you to a point where you could go for yourself. And then my job there is to continue to nurture that until we get to the end, which is the part that everyone loves, the most rewarding part of it. So I'd say the neurological part of it, because the ACL, you go get your surgeon to sew that up, and then it's pretty much textbook from there. And you build yourself back up from there. But when you deal with the brain and you have a certain uncertainty that you don't know whether this part of the brain will regenerate as fast enough to reach your goal, I think that makes it the most toughest and the best part for me, most rewarding.
Okay, so is there any part of your job that you dislike doing or you don't like as much as the other ones?
The only part I'd say that's difficult for me is to, when I'm in with a client, I have to take off myself.
Okay.
Right?
What do you
My
mean by that?
problems or whatever I'm dealing with has to be put to the side because they sense that, they sense that you may not be having a good day because it's a relationship.
Yeah.
You don't, it's a journey when you go to physio. From one session, maybe to 28, you don't know how long you'll be there. So you get to know each other. And I don't ever want what I'm going through to spill over and kind of hinder them. So the hardest part for me is to take that off and put on my other hat and say, okay, this is where you need to step up, do your thing, because you could do it. And then once you finish, we could always go back. And what I find is that sometimes they help me. I find myself telling them what I need to hear, and there's a lot little nuances there where it's like, are you hearing yourself right? You could do it too, right? So I love that part, but that's the hardest part to do.
Okay.
To just take yourself off and focus on somebody else's improvement. Yeah.
All right. So speaking of hard, what would you say is your hardest demographic to deal with, like in terms of age ranges? Like what kind of patient would give you like the most stress and like compliance and all that other good stuff?
On the spot like that, you
Wow.
know what it is.
Athletes.
What?
Athletes.
Nothing's wrong. You cannot.
I know.
Hard-headed.
See, no,
Stubborn.
I understand that to an extent, but if you're an athlete, and I'm
What?
saying this to everyone, including myself, if you
think
are
you'd
an
have the will,
athlete, even if you think you have the will, the only way you get better is to actually listen. That is
Yes.
disgusting.
How you could tell me? How you could tell me to listen when nothing's wrong with
listen
me?
to your coach. You
So-
listen to your coach.
So from somebody who would have, if I'm dealing with a track client,
Okay.
and they be like, okay, so you used to do any track? I was like, yeah, I used to come last in the 100 meters. I mean, And it's like, so you really don't get what I going through. So it's like,
Wow.
you can't really meet them at a point where you trying to, it's like, okay, nobody wants to be that person to tell Kawhi to sit down for X amount of games. If there is a person telling him that. No one wants to tell someone to sit down.
Okay.
But it's for their benefit. So you're coming from a point where this person is saying, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And you're seeing the scans, you're seeing everything, and you're saying, no, let's just build for a while, and you could always gradually return to sport. And that part where it's gradually return to sport,
That's the hardest part.
it's the hardest part, because you're like, okay, I tore
She have
my
a point, she have a
ACL,
point.
but I'm walking, right? But why can't I
Do what I
go
could
and why can't
She have a point.
why can't I go and pivot on the field now like I
They say
want to?
that's the-
Because
that's
it's a
the nagging injuries.
totally different.
They don't listen.
Yeah. The physio part of it to get you to bend your knee is totally different from the other part where you have to balance and spin and turn and Yeah. So when you think you out of that part of the physio schedule or return to sport protocol, everything has a protocol. But once you get from there, it's like, okay, I want to go back now. So that's difficult. Second one would be maybe the elderly, when they start to mature in age and the brain starts to break down, they forget, and that part where you're trying to get them, and they kind of tend to want to not do anything.
Relax,
I mean,
yeah.
you live your life so far, and here comes this lady telling you gotta go get up and and walk around. I don't want to walk around.
That's only got a couple of years.
Yeah, I did 85 years of walking,
Really.
Newspaper,
See what I'm
But
saying?
then you have to tell them, or you sit down so much, at a certain point in time, you're going to be able to get up again.
Yeah.
So, those are the top two.
That is great. But so is there any, what do you feel like is the most common injury in the bombers for Bahamians?
Bahamians. Right now, we have a really high incidence of stroke. So you may think that is like something tearing,
Abnormally.
something abnormal. But heart disease, high blood pressure, things like that, that's probably the number one. And it's so silent because you could go on in life and, I feel good until one day there's a headache, and then it's boom. So that leading to strokes and heart attacks, things like that. Second one, maybe we have a lot of vehicular accidents.
Yeah.
And then crime, you get your gunshots. We hear a lot about murders, but you don't hear about the gunshots and the people who live through them.
Exactly.
Who may have a spinal cord injury, or who may, paralyzed from the waist down or something like that.
Yeah.
So things like that are things that go unreported, but it's a high level of it. I'd say those top two.
Wow. It is.
So just because we don't just want to, just to change it up a bit from all the physical therapy questions, just to because it does sound like it takes up a lot of your time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not working and you're not playing 2K, what are you doing? What are you doing with your time?
I like to cook. So in the pandemic, I have a Instagram page called Eating with Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
It just started out like that. It branched off into I was selling plates at one point in time, but that was a lot of work. So it's I gotta find a way to fine tune that, come back to that, and But I like to cook. I like to try out different recipes and how different flavors mix together and stuff like that. Other than that, I really love to watch my favorite shows.
What are your favorite shows?
Yeah.
Well, Grey's Anatomy, I could always go back. Start at season 1 and then maybe end off at season 8 and then come back.
No,
no.
8 ain't bad.
Yeah,
I could put that on.
I know.
And life is so much better.
Yeah, there are no more than us. So.
And then after that, I'd watch, the games come on at 7,
Yeah.
8, and go on to 10. I love NBA on TNT. So if it's a Thursday night or Tuesday, I don't know what they're doing right now with their scheduling, but if it's Tuesday or Thursday, 7 o'clock, I on the couch. Ernie, Shaq, Kenny, Chuck, and my guys right now. So, yeah, those things.
Any cuisine you fancied or you favored over the other, or just a mix of everything?
I love Italian. I could eat pasta till I die.
Solid.
I could eat pasta. I think I'm a pasta right now. Probably go get some Chinese, so Asian. I don't want to say Chinese, so Asian, but more towards the Chinese aspect of it. I am part Jamaican, so that's a staple. And then Bahamian, of course. So I like to actually fuse those together. So I think I did a ackee and saltfish wonton or something like that. I just I like
That's
things
different.
like that.
Yeah.
That
Fancy.
Yeah, you still have the foundational flavors, but it's in a different way.
Yeah.
I kind of hold off on the cooking because I did the gym thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
but
go
that's when
to
you
the
cook?
gym too. Yeah.
But that's when you cook.
Yeah. So it's switched up. I'm now cooking not
For-
for comfort, but for fuel. So
Yeah.
now I'm measuring my rice, I'm measuring the chicken, measuring this and that, just so I could meet my goals and
That's
still
enough
be able-
seasoning.
Yeah.
That's
No. I ain't it ain't not
Let's get more
serious. It
seasoning.
ain't not
Oh,
serious
man.
now.
Once you count your macros,
Oh
everything
man,
okay.
that's what it is.
I just say a prayer.
Wow.
I say a prayer for any sauce I throw on that. I listen, I measured it, okay? I have a scale. I did it.
That's that 80-20, man.
Yeah. Okay, so 80-20. That's what I kind of doing now with
No,
cooking.
serious.
Yeah.
Me and medicine good
I don't know how that's
That's
gonna
serious.
transfer on camera with the Instagram thing because it's like it's chicken, rice, and broccoli.
Yeah.
It's really-
Yeah, I know what
so
you
I
mean.
gotta try and figure out how that next step would be from the comfort aspect of it to actually doing it for a reason.
People on
I
people on
only eat it.
YouTube record themselves cooking, especially when they meal prepping for the gym. So
Yeah.
it's an avenue there.
Yeah.
Well, these are the gym guys. I pass the gym.
I eat whatever I want, right?
But do you have any?
So you have to frame for it. He's like tall, like
Yeah, you will like me.
Yeah,
I
like-
mean, I do eat whatever I want, but that's why I look the way I look.
Oh,
you can't be short and jump up. No, you can't be short and eating everything.
Yeah, man. As long as I have enough food in my stomach to pick up the deadlift, that's all that matters.
Well,
Do you have any specific
Fail.
goals in the gym this year?
last year was dropping fat.
Okay.
I lost, right? I checked the scale. I was like 145. I was coming from like 167.
Okay.
So pandemic was doing the most. So I think that's maybe like over 20 pounds I lost in the past year. So right now, maybe if I could bring that down a little bit more and then start to put some muscle on,
Okay.
I'd be good to go. Yeah.
What would you say is like your hardest part in terms of like balancing the meal prep and then still getting the workouts in? Because I know sometimes for some people, like especially when they first start meal prep and all, they start to make the changes. Like you get this little lag, so you don't feel as good as you would like to feel, and your numbers don't hit the way they used to hit.
yeah.
I think, especially because I was doing weight loss and fat loss, you're not eating the amount that you used to. So that's the part. So you want me to deadlift, and I only had chicken, broccoli, and a little bit of rice? Like, that
She
don't
has
make
a
no
point.
sense.
She has a point.
But
You work out fasted.
the calorie deficit has to be in, and that's the formula. There's no way around it. That was the hardest part. I was used to a big plate. Like, a Bohemian plate is mostly rice. You got your macaroni. You got your potato salad if you like to do foolishness. And then, you know, it's like so much.
She
and,
lied.
Starch, piece of protein.
like, I even think
Where are the
about going to-
vegetables?
yeah, like, if you go to the Chinese
Is
right
it?
now, you go to the Chinese right now, you can have a quarter of your plate of meat, and the rest of that could be rice.
She lie.
And Lord help you if you got the combination.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, so you
That's
add
what I get
the
it.
calories. You know,
Grease.
you add in the calories from the shrimp, the pork, the chicken.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm not eating how I used to, and I know how I used to feel. And for me, because I had a whole page, food was life for me.
Yeah.
And it took me mentally a while. I did better now, but it took me mentally a long time to kind of get over that part that you can't eat to live or live to eat. I mean,
So, I have a question. So, talk about how starch turns into sugar and sugar adds to lactic acid buildup.
well, yeah. So that's the basic. This is the basic kind of maths of it.
You want a dietitian type talking.
That's the maths of it. Like starch, we give starch a bad name. So for me, the
Gotta
best,
get your energy.
Yeah, the best thing I learned was I could still eat rice and lose weight. I'm literally here saying that I had rice, but not the amount or the portions that we used to.
Yeah.
Right? So right now I probably eat like maybe 4 ounces of rice or 2 ounces of rice, 2 to 4. Fill that rest up with vegetables. Vegetables is also a starch too. So you have different types of starches. You have your complex, simple. Complex is your donuts, your twists, your hot potty, and they my favorite things. But you gotta ease up on them. Maybe, you know, I was one person who used to go, original potty is 2 beef, 1 chicken. And I would finish that before I end up off the highway. But now I say, okay, you go get one chicken. Because the more starch you eat and you're not burning it off, and we are people that we don't walk nowhere. we don't
She has one.
we drive everywhere. We don't move around. You can go lay down after you eat anyway. So that starch can turn into fat. And that ain't
Wow.
what you want.
That's something serious.
Yeah.
What else would get the our body with air in it, man? You are Gillis.
That was me.
I had one of them last night.
That was the sign. That was the
Yeah.
sign. Man. That was the
But
sign.
the party was fat, right?
I was so happy.
I take a bite into it. I was like,
Oh, so it's like a Lay's potato chip. But
Yeah.
bro, it was
In a hot body
It was
form.
nothing in there. I look inside. I was like, wait, this big pocket of air and just the meat was on
Yeah.
the bottom.
Yeah.
But that's one of the issues with carbohydrates as well. Though. When you look at it, it's mostly like in terms of satiety. So like if you eat a lot more carbs, like the way Bahamians tend to eat, like you realize you'd have a big plate, all kind of stuff now. But because it goes into your body quickly, you know, your glucose levels go up and all that good stuff. Like you get hungry in like another 2 hours.
Yeah.
Take off some of the starch, add some vegetables, or increase the size of your protein. You ain't eating again.
Wait,
Guaranteed.
if I could have find something else, I would eat. But I go on there, I get robbed. I pay $3 for a hot
He
pie.
did get robbed.
This one's sitting with him.
He did get robbed.
Look at him.
I'm just saying.
It was that or starve.
Yeah.
All right.
And I love hot bodies. They're a pretty rounded meal.
So moving back to sports. I just want to ask because I want to know. I want to know. I just want to know. Can you watch a full game without the physiotherapist brain kicking in and be like, if you see somebody fall, you be,
No.
you can't do it.
Nope.
But Derrick
That's
Rose
So you
might
must
have-
be stressed.
I sure Derrick
Never.
Rose was painful.
See what I said? I have to ask.
Anytime Anthony Davis set foot on the floor.
don't even bring
But
it
I
up.
was gonna ask one
Don't
too,
even
bro. I'm
bring
like, how do you fix Anthony Davis? Please let me know how you fix Anthony Davis.
Right now, how do I fix him?
Is he too
needs-
tall? Like, what is the problem?
He needs the bulk. I think.
For his
So
first.
now, what have you been doing the last year?
He did put
He
some
do a little
size
bit.
on. He
Just
did
like
put
Curry.
some size on.
Embiid did the same thing. It's like they put on the size and like they lose it mid-season and then
Yeah, because it's tough to keep.
keep.
Yeah.
Because they ain't working us frequently in
Yeah.
And
season.
they can't eat as much.
And his balance sucks. Like, if you notice, he goes to take off or he lands, and it's like he's on the
He
floor.
landed
So it's
anywhere.
like, I always compare him to when I used to watch Iverson or Dwayne Wade. Like, they'd go to the basket and they'd fall, but they'd fall a specific type of way where, okay, it's not on my hand, it's not on my ankle that's gonna turn.
Yeah.
They fall
They
a
tuck and
specific
roll.
type
Yeah,
of
it's
way.
always a slide.
But he wants to play that role. Like, I see him when he goes to the basket in that specific one where he turned his ankle and it looked really ugly. Like, you want to do that, but I don't know. I don't know what his training like. The man said he was, and during the summer he didn't pick up a basketball.
You don't understand.
So we could always key in and say maybe these are the things. You know, I look at somebody like Zion. Like, Zion is powerful. He's big. He's big. He's too big for what he wants to do. You know?
You don't think he got small?
He got smaller
He still needs
in the
some
summer, but now
weight back
I
on.
think he
He's
put
put
that
the
weight back
weight's
on.
come up.
So you just think his anatomy doesn't make sense?
His-
Like, is
and
he
for
too
his
explosive
game, for his game,
for his body?
for his game, for his body, it don't match up. He could be a Shaq, a back to the basket, or a little bit of
he be a Zach
explosiveness
Randolph?
here from there.
Yeah.
Right.
Zach Randolph ain't got no jump though.
That's what
That's
Zion
no, but that's the
do.
problem. That's the problem.
Exactly.
Zion
He
wants to jump.
jump.
He wants to jump. He want to take off. He want to do all these things, and I'm like, listen, you can't have both. You can't have both. Like, even if you look at what Shaq, if you follow Shaq's career, Shaq was really small in Orlando, and he was able to do a lot of dynamic moves. But when you saw him start to enter the championship era, a lot of back to the basket,
Yeah.
a lot of finesse, a lot of passing. When you saw him in Miami, okay, I'm not as quick as I used to be. And the same thing with LeBron. Like, you have to adjust your game for where you're at, especially physically. You know, so no, the physical therapy brain don't turn off. I had YouTube TV where I could pause and rewind. So I have paused and rewind.
Not multiple times. Oh man.
Especially that AD injury, that specific one where he turned that ankle and it was like bad. I was there for the Paul George.
That was lame, yeah.
I was in Barbados. That wasn't during the season. I think that was like a preseason.
It was an exhibition game.
There's an exhibition game.
Yeah.
I was there for that. Gordon Haywood.
Kevin Will.
And now we have Twitter now, so you could
Oh, yeah,
just-
you can see
you
it.
could type in.
Oh yeah, you can find
you
everything.
know.
Yeah.
And for me, it's never, ooh, wow, ouch. It's like, okay,
How we get this fixed?
how do we get this fixed and what happened? So when you said what happened to you, like that's a typical, every injury kind of goes a typical route. So when you had that pop,
I have a question. So for athletes like Gallinari, who always tearing his ACL and MCL, because Gallinari probably tore his ACL and MCL probably like 6-7 times.
6'7".
Yes, bro.
he's
His
exaggerating.
knee should not be functional.
He's exaggerating.
No, but Gallinari tore. He always out with a knee injury, and
Yeah.
throughout his whole career, he's battled with knee injuries, and it mostly be okay. This ACL, this MCL. So, what would you say someone? Why is he prone to such a continuous injury like that, and how do you rehab properly when you tear it the first time?
So it's a big mixed bag there. What we find is you have an injury on one side, you're gonna overcompensate on the other, right? So when you have people saying, "Oh, I have both knee problems," it may have started out with one side, or both are building. You know, if you're in the gym and you just doing arm every day, arm day, chest day. I don't know if I'm speaking to anybody, but okay, you skipping legs, you skipping the foundational principles of how I could train this little tiny joint. Like it's not as secure as we may think when we think of all the things we do with our legs. So how am I training that to go on the court? For Gallinari, he was spot up. I want to see him spot up and shoot. But Gallinari wants to
Power
go.
forward?
Yeah, he wants to be that power forward, that stretch forward, to be able to say, okay, well, I do have the shot and I could take you off to dribble. And we find with a lot of hybrids, not a lot of people could do that consistently. Giannis is the freak for the reason that he is a freak of nature. And he plays to his strengths, you know?
Yeah.
And when I look at people like Giannis and LeBron, they feed back into themselves. I think LeBron's budget for physio and all that stuff is,
Yeah, it's millions.
you know, that's why we could watch him in his 20th year and he's doing what he's still putting up the numbers that he was putting up a long time ago. So are you putting back into yourself?
And you could kind of see it in the physiques too. I mean, speaking specifically to Giannis, like you see a lot of dudes like stretch balls and everything else. Like you see them, they look either like they should be playing the 5, but they're just playing the 4, or they playing the 4, but they should be playing the 3. Like that in between space, I think is where, like you were saying, a lot of the issues come about. So let's just dive just a little bit deeper into physiotherapy. What are like some exercises that they can do? Because I know what tends to happen, I had this problem with mine, is, you know, you let the bigger muscles take the majority of the work. So like your quads and your glute maximus, like just takes over everything. Then your glute med is weak, which means you overcompensate, and then everything just
Yeah.
from there.
The tough part is when you get an athlete and you show them these little tiny exercises for these tiny muscles, okay? So you have the glute max, you doing your squats, but what about your glute med? What about your groin? What about your adductors? What about those small tiny things that kind of aren't grandiose and not lifting weights? What if I just tell you, squeeze both of your legs together and hold it? Or squeeze against this resistance band? It's boring.
We know they ain't trying to do
No
this in
one's
the
trying
gym.
to do that. You know, we want to get in, we want deadlift, we want
See
squat,
what he said?
and that's the key.
They put us
So-
Prince doing adductors, bro.
Exactly. If you have the patience and the fortitude to sit through the boring exercises to get those smaller muscles to do their job, most of them are stabilizers. They ain't doing much anyway. They want to just make sure that if the quads decide that we ain't gonna fire like that, we got its back. You know? That's the part there. You gotta do the boring stuff. And that's the hard part.
Sorry, but
It is.
Yeah,
but,
and then a lot of single. When you find okay, so if you want to get back on the field, a lot of single leg exercises. So instead of doing a double leg deadlift, gotta start to do a single leg deadlift, or a single squat, a pistol squat. Those things like that are what's gonna get you back on the field, because when we run, you're automatically on one leg.
yeah.
You're never on both legs at the same time when you run.
Good
One's
point.
always in the air. So that one leg gotta support your body, and it's rehabbing. So that's the tough part. You gotta let go of the stronger leg and really pick on the weaker leg. Yeah, that's the tough part.
Does Brandon Roy and Greg Oden, if they were in today's world,
Okay.
with
so
the
I
with
see
the
where you're going
modern
now.
with
I
the
see where
modern
you're going. I
medicine
see
that
where
we
you're going.
have,
You bring it back, huh?
with the modern medicine that we have,
Yes.
do they not die?
Brandon
Well,
Roy,
not
Brandon
die,
Roy
bro.
would not die.
What?
Brandon
You
Roy.
say career before you say the word.
Does their career not?
Brandon Roy is my boy now.
Do they have a
I ain't
career?
lie.
Brandon Roy has a career. Brandon Roy has a career. Greg Oden, not too sure. He came in the league where we phased out the big man.
Mm-hmm.
So he is trying to do so much more than we asked you to do. Right? And that leads you to, you already have bad knees anyway, or whatever he had, because
Oh,
you're
yeah,
big and
one
tall
leg,
and whatever.
sure.
Yeah. So, yes, but Brandon Roy, I think you'd be better. Nowadays, injuries don't even take that long.
Exactly.
You know, they have scans or x-rays at the facility now. So you go back to the locker room, you could get a diagnosis like right then and there. And so at that point in time, it's just, what's the protocol? What do we do now? How do we get you back the fastest way possible? So yeah, a lot of people would have been saved.
Derrick Rose still there?
He is. I think he was here when the turning point
Yeah.
of sports medicine, in terms of the access to it and all the new technologies and stuff like that. He was there for that.
Or he was injured long enough so that they could develop it.
Well, he might have been the prototype.
Yeah,
He might have been
up.
the prototype.
Why they taking strays like this?
No,
man?
but
First
I
they was
think
dead.
with Derrick Rose situation, he said this on a couple podcasts recently. I think this applies to Zion too. Is that even like, in a track after you practice form and how to line, you place your feet, arm up. Derek said he had to learn how to jump in line, and that's something that Zion had to learn too, because it's a good way out of, okay, when you finish a flush, how to line on 2 feet, don't line like this, or you get a hyperextend. That's almost like how Clay tore his ACL, like line on that 1 foot and then his foot slid.
Yep.
And,
You got freak injuries like that, or what we call non-contact. Those are the ones I hate to see, when there's no one around, or this is a freak play. You could always land on someone's foot or something like that. I hate those too. But when you see someone in the back court and they was running and they just holding the hamstring, Bradley Beal, he's on my fantasy right now. He's out, so
I apologize.
he has a hamstring. But I saw him just pull up, and it's like, okay, now that's a you thing.
Yeah.
It's not a thing where I got slammed to the ground. It's me now. I have to take care of that. So, it's the physio, it never turns off.
Do you think there are some people who are genetically predisposed to injuries?
Yes, we could always
For
say
real?
that.
Wow.
We could always say that.
know that was a real thing.
You could always say that. You have
Facade,
people,
right?
runs in the family, quote unquote.
Wow.
Bad knees, or my mommy shaped like this, or I shaped like this, or there are things
Wow.
like that.
I don't want to talk about your boy Dwayne Wade, but was he too explosive for his knees? Like, because all the college
actually,
gone.
no, but
They say all the college
but
gone.
a lot
bro.
of no, but what Dwayne Wade's situation was,
I was sad, but
they removed a lot of his tissue even before he made it to the NBA.
why?
They didn't know that was just standard practice at the time.
Oh, that's sick.
So that's what caused
That's
it.
sick.
My boy gave his knees all he could do, and that's what's happening now. Like, if you look at him, he was explosive. He had a jump shot. He had almost everything.
Exactly.
He could take you off the dribble down he could block. He was one of the leading shot blockers in the NBA. All that explosion, I don't expect him to have any sort of knees at all. So when he kind of winded down his career, I was like, okay, this makes sense to me. I'm not mad at it at all. It's Dwayne Wade. He gave us all he could give.
Yeah.
3 rings. I'm sitting pretty. His knees are okay with me. I wish him
That's
the
why
best.
they went up.
They are, yeah, hanging up in the rafters.
It's crazy though. But yeah, it just goes to show you though, if you shape bad, you might just be shaped
That
bad.
is crazy.
Shape bad leads to injury proneness.
No one escapes any sort of professional sport without any lasting injuries. I don't think even us, as we go to the gym, you're gonna always have my back or things like that.
Always
know?
the left shoulder on the bench. I
think
feel like everybody has the same left shoulder on the bench.
Yeah, if I was
might be
benching, I could probably say that too. Yeah.
So what's the process of I guess going to, so is it, do you do a I cannot find the word. Do people go to doctors, get a scan, and then come to you, or do you do like a test so we know what's what?
So physical therapy is what we call a specialty.
Okay.
So you're more than likely gonna need a doctor's referral to have physical therapy. So that's really the thing there. If we bill insurance, your insurance needs that referral from the doctor to say, yes, this person actually needs physical therapy. So the process will look kind of different depending on what the injury is. If we talk in sports, let's say somebody unfortunately drops on the flag football field, and then we look in, he can't further play the game. So our next thing to do is, can you walk? Are you able to get in a car by yourself? If not, let's call an ambulance. Whether you go to doctors or PMH, we got to find out what's going on. Because if you can't walk, you can't continue, something's going on. Or if we see any type of instability in the field, in the knee, then we could say, okay, this person needs an MRI, or this person needs X-ray right away. CT scans, things like that. Those things are what we clue in on what the diagnosis is. All right, so that's now all of that goes to your rehab professional. We want you to bring every single scan you have because we need to see what's going on. And follow-up scans are great as well, depending on the diagnosis and what's going on. So that would be mostly what you would need. You're going to need that referral from the doctor, and any scans you could bring is helpful. And then what happens is the rehab professional communicates with the doctor, the hospital, and that's your whole care. If you need a nutritionist, of course, you have all those other things. You have other rehab professionals, occupational therapists, depending on what kind of injury it was, recreational therapists, respiratory therapists as well. Like I'm thinking of the football player who got, he needs now a full team of care because he was in the ICU on a breathing tube. So his whole management process now has the full gamut of the medical squad. So he may not even see physio until, well, he probably is, because we still want to, once he's cleared to move around in the ICU, get up as soon as you can and stuff like that, and then progress. So it really depends on the injury, but what you would really need is that referral from the doctor to say you're cleared to move and do those things.
So,
Just one question. So would you recommend, what's his name? DeMille?
Hamlin?
DeMar Hamlin. Would you recommend him retiring from football?
I want every football player to retire. So,
Wow.
hot take. Hot take. Notice I didn't include.
Fair enough, though.
Notice I
We gotta
didn't
take
include.
that.
We understand. Though.
Didn't include the NFL as one of my hobbies.
I
It's
do want to
not.
ask one thing about the NFL though, but
That's well,
If you think the physio brain is active in the NBA,
every single hit.
there is no
every
way
year, every
I
year.
could sit down
And watch football.
and watch football. I'm a Super Bowl girl.
Okay.
So the snacks distract me.
Oh,
from-
commercials.
and Rihanna's gonna be to this one, so
Oh yeah, yeah, I missed that.
I could do that.
Even like stepping on the turf and stuff.
Yeah,
I
so-
get
That's
it.
exactly
Yeah.
what's going on.
But
But before we go there, so say like I'm just someone that's in the gym, regular Bahamian athlete. I used to play basketball every other Wednesday, or it's not nightly, and I just have this tightness in my shoulder and my back. Do I still have to go to the doctor to get a referral to see a physiotherapist?
if you have insurance and you want to use insurance, there's no way around it.
Okay.
Okay. There are programs. So if I say prehab, I do a lot of talking about prehab, which is I want you to get this together before you even have to see me. So if it is a tightness in the shoulder, there's really no reason for you to not come in and let me show you some exercises or things like that. Where we start to get a little dicey is you may have a little underlying injury there in that shoulder. You may be hearing pops and stuff and all that, and it may be a little unstable, and you thinking this only a little, I sleep bad. People be like, oh, doc, I just sleep bad. Yeah, and then now when you do the little scan and thing, it's a whole tear, and now we gotta, because some things manifest in different ways or similar ways where you think it could be this, but it's that. Which is why we push the referral process, and then by law, right now in the Bahamas, you have to have a referral to see a physical therapist, but not really for a massage or a stretch or something like that. Things that we would, if you can carry me to court, we got to make sure we got the paperwork to say this doctor said that you need physio. But in the States, it's not like that. Now in the States, if you're a doctor of physical therapy, you have open practice, so anyone could come in, walk in. But right now in the Bahamas, we haven't reached that level yet. Hopefully we'll get there soon, because like you're saying, these things that can turn into an injury, most people don't know, or they get caught up in that process where you kind of could get the help you need. It's touch and go, and it's very much client based or injury based.
Plantar fasciitis,
Ouch.
right? Do you have any? I know that's a common one among, I wouldn't say professionals, I'll say unprofessional athletes, right?
Football players do.
But
Davis, a lot of
do you have any tips to prevent, or do you have any tips to?
Do you have this?
It sounds like
You don't know if you have it?
it is one of those annoying things that when I see people out, oh, you have plantar fasciitis, you out for 2 games, why? But it is very annoying. So plantar fasciitis, fascia is a tissue that kind of holds all our muscles together. So in the foot, it's the tiny muscles that we neglect, and depending on our footwear and our habits, it gets tight and it pulls, and so every step hurts basically.
I think turf toe is bad too.
Turf toe, anything with the foot is terrible because that's your whole foundation.
Yeah.
So plantar fasciitis, we like I said, we neglect the smaller muscles. You have to now engage the muscles of your foot.
That's what I was told.
Yes. So
Yeah.
one of my favorite ones is if you used to shoot marbles, you just put some marbles on the floor. You gotta pick them up with your toes, drop them somewhere else,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
One of the other best things, you get a
Write it down.
you get a ice. So sometimes I may just put ice in a styrofoam. We can't use styrofoam no more. But like, let's just say we were
In
still
ice?
using styrofoam. Yeah. Or you have little molds where you could mold it into like a circle or something that you could roll. So
Oh, okay.
ideally you want something you could roll, not an ice cube, because you could get all stick up.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have a nice mold, and they have so much things that you could buy now.
Yeah.
Just say ice foot massage on Amazon, and you got it. And what you do is you kind of roll the bottom of the foot, and if you get a nice one that kind of has like the little stubs on it,
Yeah, like
and
the
you kind
foam
of
rollers.
really massage
Yeah.
that part of the foot. So that also helps with the pain, and then the exercises help to strengthen the muscles of the foot, so you could walk
Yeah, because I went to get checked up, and
there?
I know it was coming. I know it was
no,
coming.
because I was running and it felt like someone kicked me, and I look around like there was no one around me. So like I was like, first thing,
Wait, what?
the first thing that got into my mind was my Achilles pop,
Yeah.
but
that's a
it
nasty one.
didn't pop. I went to the doctor. She didn't scan it, but I went to the doctor and I told her my symptoms, and she was like, well, you have plantar fasciitis or whatever. And I have a tendency to walk on my toes.
So we get deeper into the
Right,
story.
I have a tendency to walk on my toes, and I have bad footwear, as in I wear Crocs.
Oh,
You flat-footed too?
No, I have a high arch actually.
Hold on.
there you go.
Crocs is bad, but where?
No, I wear my Crocs down.
Wow.
So my Crocs
Yeah.
are down because sometimes I wear them at work, and
Okay.
I work.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So like she's like some like exercises I could do, like pulling my toes back, and
The
like
stretches.
I could say the hardest part for me is, like you said, it's boring. The hardest part for me is just going there and just doing it, because it's like sometimes you don't even feel it.
No.
So because I'm there, I'm like, okay, I don't feel it. Like,
And you know the worst part is like I feel like I'm getting better. I don't feel it at
Yeah.
all. Should I continue? Yes.
no, but and I got to that. So I finally and another thing I realized was that my cleats had a lot of wear and tear. I wasn't wearing them too much, but I usually get cleats every season. But this was the first year that I actually used my cleats for game and practice. Usually I would use a different set of cleats for practice and use a different set of cleats for the game. But this was the first year that I used the same pair of cleats for practice and game. So I guess that wore out.
Actually, just a side note, people don't understand the importance of the shoes you wear. You need to change out your shoes at least once to every 2 years. Like you holding on shoes for 5 years and they're just slowly wearing down. You got to protect your feet.
Best way to check is like you get everybody have the hose slippers or like the tongue slippers. You look at them like you could see.
Oh, you could burn them. You burn them out.
Yeah, you see exactly like
yeah.
how your walking pattern goes, and once you start to see that, that's when you know you need to change because all the support already gone.
I used to like the Clarks epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
The what we used to call them cheese bottom.
Yeah.
And you used to know,
Nice
like,
stitch,
okay, you
stitch.
start off level off in September, and then
Any year, you
June
just,
is
Yeah,
a
like
slant. It's like a slant,
That
you
used to
know.
make no
So
sense.
then you know you have imbalances within
Yeah.
your foot, right? That we don't really check for it until it's a problem.
At least he get it checked out. Deion
Yeah.
Sanders got 7 toes.
I
Wait,
saw that too.
Yeah, wait.
it was hurting because like I was like limping, so I was like, let me go to this doctor. I was getting forced to go, but
Yeah.
but I was like, yeah, it worked.
I think he thought he was fine too. I just
What was behind that? I didn't.
I don't think it was the.
No, he had turf toe for a while, and I think he said when he went to the doctor, finally they found fractures in his foot and other things and all type
Oh,
of
wow.
things, and he didn't know it was fractures
So
and
they
stuff.
just took his toes.
Yeah, I think it had something to do with blood flow and all that stuff.
Okay,
I can't
yeah,
remember.
that's
Yeah.
what I mean. You don't just
Yeah.
take somebody.
Yeah.
And when I looked at it, I had to stop looking. I mean, I don't know. A lot been going on with me, and I was just like, I can't deal with this right now. And I just saw, I was like, you really never take the big toe if you could help it, because that's your stabilizing toe. So I was like, something have to be. And they don't ever tell us everything. And I did,
No,
and
no.
that's my frustration as well. You may hear, okay, this person is down, elbow something, and they never tell you everything because privacy, of course.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
unless it's a really big name or something similar to the small and just say an ACL, but you'll never hear that it was a meniscus involved with the ACL sometimes. So you never get the whole story. It has to be blood flow. Most of the times you say, well, these toes dead, bro.
Yeah.
Just gotta. But you never want to take toes. You never want to take much off the foot unless you have to.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Okay.
that makes sense to me because I wasn't trying to. I mean, they was getting off on his foot, and I was watching the Shannon.
Yeah,
it was
Shannon was getting
right?
off all day.
And I was like,
Yeah.
wait,
So his toes on chat.
yeah.
Yeah.
I never.
I gotta look for that
I
now.
heard about him doing that whole procedure, but I was like, I didn't want to see that.
No, I
I didn't
mean,
want to see that.
even for me,
I
I
just
was
was in
like,
shock.
I was like, wow.
He ain't got no toes, right?
yeah.
I thought it was like,
This
it
is where I
seemed
draw
like
the
a joke
line.
at first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a joke.
I know it was a joke. It was like, okay, he shaved it off or something. I don't know, but that was
Yeah,
crazy.
foot injuries
That was
could
crazy.
be nasty. heel spurs.
Flat.
Remember KD he had something.
Yeah,
It
what
was
is
a funny name.
They took, I think, pieces of his like waistline or something to put in his foot or something like that.
He had like foot injuries.
Yeah,
That was what I think stopped them from like being that
How they
big
are
tree.
now, eh?
You know,
No.
he had a lot of injuries in the beginning in OKC that we don't remember.
Oh, well.
You know,
Steph and his ankles.
Steph and his ankles, which is a testament to rehab. If you've been following Steph, I was watching him from school time, and I was like, this boy, he lock up. He got these ankle braces on top of ankle brace, and so now he could be in,
shoes.
you know.
Yeah.
And now his injuries don't have much to do with ankles at all. I think it's a shoulder now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more upper body stuff for him.
Yeah, wear and tear. So if you're shooting, it's wear and tear, right?
Okay.
So I think if it's non-contact, so it wasn't I think he caught the ball or something like that, and it was like,
Yeah, almost
Yeah.
hyperextended.
yeah. So yeah,
I think the craziest, the last non-contact one I would talk about is turf and regular field for football.
Yeah.
How is that? Like, how is it so different? Like, I know it's because you wear different size cleats and whatever.
Turf
and then you got weather. Weather's a big aspect of it too. Like, how does rain or snow perform with grass than something artificial? You know, are you using the type of artificial grass or turf that's gonna be conducive in anything you play in, or what kind of shoes now should I wear for that versus that? So, you know,
Yeah, because you see it all the time. Like for home field advantages, like you see people complaining like, "Oh, when I go to so and so field, I can never make my cuts. This, that, and the third." And it's like they wearing cleats to like dig into the turf.
Yeah.
You can't really do that with grass, and I think that's why you have a lot of contact and non-contact injuries. As soon as you plant in the turf and your cleats dig in, like
yeah.
how
Finish.
New York
That's
field.
different.
New York
Yeah.
field is a killer.
no give.
Yeah.
New York field is a killer.
Yeah.
Scary, but
Wow.
Like I watched the World Cup for the first time, that last game, and I was like, I cannot.
That was hot.
Yeah, it was hot now.
damn.
But every time someone slide and did all that, I was like, oh Lord.
They couldn't watch the soccer.
And they got right back up.
They got knees of
So
steel.
it's like
To be fair, that's all they got.
you could see as a testament to their training that
Yeah.
they trained for that, right? It was a beautiful game.
Yeah.
Beautiful game. I'm glad I watched it.
That game was.
Yeah, it's an understatement of what a good game that was.
That was a World Cup.
Because soccer / football is so boring to me. So boring. So back and forth. Takes so long to score a goal. Can we just dunk?
They picked the ball up.
Can we just... That's a little... You know.
Yes, I don't know. I think it just goes with everything else. You know, the more you understand it, the more interested it is. Because I've heard people say a lot of that about American football, and then you come to find out they just don't understand it. So it's like, yeah, I understand your frustration. Like, it's just not good. And I think it's the same thing people look at with physiotherapy. Like, they just see you. People, have you ever like had someone see or just refer to you as also use like a medical personal trainer or something like that?
Yeah, it's a lot of blurred lines because a lot of professionals deal with the rehab process. So I did mention a few, and then you have the athletic trainer, which is primarily when you turn to sports, they have a different chain of command that isn't quite set up that way in the Bahamas because we only have a few. I could think of Sasha at UB, and I could think of one other person. But if you're lucky to have that chain of command, so what I would imagine it is you go to physio first to do the boring exercises. Once you're done with that, I'm sending you off to the athletic trainer. Personally, because we've crossed our goals where you could get out of that phase of rehab. And then the athletic trainer is the next best person to get you to that next level of return to sport. Of course, now where it crosses lines is we use the same things. So now we could get into like different modalities. So you may have had ultrasound, ice, heat packs, TENS, electrical stimulation. We both use the same things. You have chiropractors as well, they use the same things. So everybody plays a role, and I don't ever fault someone for making assumptions or saying things like that, because there are people that exist. So what I do is you just go and you give them the bottom line of education and how it differs and what we do versus what another person does, and it's not putting them down, because at the end of the day, all of us are a team. You're gonna have, and when I traveled with a lot of the track teams, you have everybody on there doing their job. The medical doctor, what you need? You need a shot? Do you need any medication to kind of get you well? Or do you need your massage, your muscle stimulation, your ultrasound, things like that? Then go to your physio. You need your exercises? Go to your physio. You need to start to train and perform on the field? That's your athletic trainer. And I think education is going to be the key. And because of we deal with the same demographic, here it's kind of like competition. So it's like you fighting for clientele, where it shouldn't be that way. You know, you shouldn't put another profession down or underestimate what they could do, because we all have a role to play in that process. And when you get working functional as a team, then I think we'll be way much better in terms of recovery and getting players back to where they need to be.
Okay, so because we're winding down, where do you see your business going, or where do you see yourself advancing? Any advancements?
I like what I'm doing now, because I feel like the demographic that I serve are underserved. So I do a lot of mobile physical therapy work now, dealing with people who can't, for any reason, go to a facility. Right? So you have a lot of people like that. Either they aren't able to move the way they can, or transportation is difficult. That doesn't mean that they should be without the rehab process. So I really like where I'm at, because I feel like what I'm doing is needed, and I feel like I fill a niche that's not really being fulfilled right now. So what I would want to do is to continue that on a bigger level, maybe bring on someone who's like-minded, so now we could cover more ground. What I want
I was just gonna ask that, if you're the only person on staff, you're the one doing all the work.
Yeah, so I'm the secretary, the bookkeeper, everything like that.
Okay.
So yeah, so once we see the need for it to kind of start to build and really take off, then
Okay.
That's where I see myself practically. If the government wants to, give me
Look
a
in the
contract,
camera. Look in the camera while you say
a
that.
contract, or 3 fat juicy contracts. What we really need is
What about
You're trying to serve the underserved communities.
the
man.
underserved communities.
for the country?
We really need a neurological center. So a lot of Bahamians going now to Cuba, because Cuba, from what I understand, you're in the hospital the whole entire time. You're there, and the rehab process takes place in the hospital. And we don't have a place like that, where you may not need emergent medical care, but you need to be in a specific place for rehab. So when I think about strokes and what happens in the States a lot, you're in the facility, and you wake up, you got occupational therapy. After that, you go into physio. You may do lunch, then you go into speech therapy. We don't have that here, and everything's disjointed. So you have to go to doctors for speech, or you got to go to PMH for your rehab. You may not have an occupational therapist here, so you got to go somewhere else. And a lot of people don't do mobile work. So even if you're home and you're bedridden at home, it's difficult to get a speech therapist to come out here. So if the government is listening, 3 fat juicy contracts to make a facility where we could get people who are suffering from neurological diseases, a spot where they could have access to doctors, rehab professionals, nurses, wound care, everything. Please and thanks. That's one of my dreams to see, because it hurts me to tell someone, you looking for a speech therapist? It's like, okay, well, I only know two. And
Yeah.
and one only deals with kids. And, you know, like, we don't have a spot where you could just get everything at once. And with the demographic, like I talked about, we dealing with a lot of heart disease, and that's really prominent for real. Like, and we're leaving people not being able to access the care they need. So that would be a ultimate dream of mine to see. I don't know how that's gonna happen, but it's always on my mind.
No, the most important thing is you speak it into the air. You speak it into existence.
Speak it into the camera.
Once 2 or 3 people agree, then it's
That's all it takes.
You know, yeah.
Somebody be listening.
Somebody.
Well, there you have it, folks. This concludes another SandBar Sit Down with the lovely Dr. Pinder. She gave her insight. She told us about a physio. She told us about her life. We just picked out her brain. We thank Prince for being on.
Happy to have you here. It was a great talk. I appreciate it very much.
You are welcome back. Don't.
Yes, anytime.
You want to come back on? Let us know. Hit us up. We could do part 2. Sadly,
The finals.
because I'm sure we don't have everything on this camera. So we're always open for a part 2 if you want to come back.
Definitely love to be. I love this stuff, like talking sports. And
Yeah.
I guess I could add that to my hobby list
Yeah.
when we come back again. I like to talk sports.
After the All-Star break, and getting some NBA.
The serious.
Exactly.
That's when the season matters.
Anyone you want to shout out, anything you want to close us with, anything fun or anything serious or whatever you want is. The floor is yours.
I just want everybody to be well. You know, listen to your body, listen to what it's telling you, because it's always going to tell you when something's wrong. And it's different degrees to which wrong is. It's either, oh, this is just me sleeping bad, versus I need to go to A&E right now. So let's listen to our body more. You know, physically, mentally. Yeah, mentally. It's not always physically. You gotta be in touch with self. You know.
Yeah.
I want everybody to be well this year. It's like the 7th of January.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want everybody to be well.
Okay. And
good.
watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. You listen on any audio platform. Hit us with the 5-star rating.
But
Leave your comments.
you could follow me.
Yeah, follow.
you could follow
Drop
me.
your handles. Drop your handles.
Follow me on Instagram, Your Neighborhood Physio. It's spelled the American neighborhood, not the British neighborhood. So there's no
Fair
U.
enough.
There's no
And
you.
the website is also yourneighborhoodphysio.com.
It'll be in the description below, as well as flashing on screen.
3 contracts.
3 juicy contracts.
All right.
Make sure they juicy.
All right. See you, folks.